Welcome to 𝐄𝐓𝐇𝐄𝐑𝐄𝐔. We talk about investing, finance, and professional development. It's the current time of exactly 10:02 a.m. on the Eastern Time on August 22nd on Monday. Hope you guys have a great weekend, by the way. Ethereum per was $1,567, about 3.13% so far. Respective of crypto market and the equity market across the spectrum, we are relatively down to red as we were foreshadowing based on the futures indicator that we saw yesterday posting. And across the spectrum, we are relatively down because of the, I guess the replenishment of the market cycle that we need to kind of, sustain. We've been quite extended for about a month and a half so far, dragging up from, for Ethereum specifically, just a reference point from the $880, surging all the way up to $1998 or $2,000, if you may, right? And respect to the overall market, I would say, on the equity side as well, across all the indexes are all down about 1.5%, all indicating some bearishness, knowing the fact that, across the entire market, we've been quite extended. And again, the factors that we identified that extend the overall market is really coming from a couple different catalysts, right? And they come in chronologically. So one is the positive job numbers. Secondly is the positive CPI report. Thirdly is the positive PPI report. And then some supplementary positive earnings that came out from some consumer companies. But with respect to this surge, it can only sustain for so long until we pop the balloon. So we popped the balloon at 2,000, which is a relatively monumental level, especially in the 4 digits perspective. Now it's leaping down as we got canceled out on a daily perspective on an RSI scatter. We're reaching at 71 out of 70, which is very highly extended. And at the same time, we form a death cross at that point, which makes a lot of sense because you can only drag it for so long. As you hear negative news among some of the consumer companies, we see that on the news front this morning, AMC, which is obviously a cinema company, seems like the owners of the Regal Cinema is warning a potential bankruptcy. Knowing the fact that with respect to the COVID situation and people are more. I guess more adaptive towards the Netflix and the Hulu and the Amazon Studio, the Stars, and all of those like in-home entertainment options, and Disney as well, as you have seen, that going back to a theater might not be as attractive as it used to be. It might not be as like the American pastime like the way it used to be. It's a different story for obviously baseball, basketball, more of the live sports, if you may. It's more fun to be watching those type of leisure activities in person in comparison to watching movies, right? So there's definitely a decline among theaters, and especially the cost for going to watch in a theater is not the cheapest either, right? And with the overpriced popcorn, so the warning of this negativity around potential bankruptcy is definitely very logical, but also ties with the economy, right? So with this negative news, combined with the main events that's expecting coming up on the Jackson Hole speech on this Friday coming up, which a lot of economists are indicating that we might hear some foreshadow news around, inflationary pressure, higher rates hikes, if the efficacy of the previous two hikes do not work out, which can be worrisome, right? So among a lot of foreshadow, we are expecting some buzzwords that we might be hearing on this Friday, and positivity of higher rate hikes is it's in this discussion. Raising to 75 basis point again or 1% can be a possibility. So if that's the case, we're gonna see more pain and more suffering on the market front going forward, right? So across the spectrum, is definitely not a lot of positive news, and also with respect to gas prices still surging, the VIX is still high. VIX is actually up 12% at the moment, which shows that there's a lot of fear, definitely being percolated among the spectrum. So a lot of negative news. A lot of negative news specifically pointing the consumer retail sector as well, which means that inflationary pressure is still sky high, despite it's been kind of normalizing in a way. So let's just dive right into technical to see what's happening with respect to risk management level at the moment. We are not in the business of predicting because it's impossibility, but we have an understanding, a read on the the setup, in a risk management perspective. Does it make sense to get in or does it make sense to get out at the moment right now? So let's just dive right into it. With respect to recording time of 10:07 a.m. on the Eastern time, Ethereum $100,576, down about 2.5% so far. Let's look over a crypto market on the daily perspective. You can see clearly we have surged up for, ever since when we were at the $1,000 level, or 880, surge up all the way to 2,000, and we gave up, and basically we popped the balloon so far, and also with triangulate with the death cross, and we were quite extended at 71 out of 70, as we mentioned. So right now we are heading down, right? You could see that the needles are all pointing downward, on both fronts, and we are heading to the 35 out of 70 as a landing zone. So that means we should technically see more downside pressure to 1450. It's an impossibility. If we hear more negative news, let's just say, right, because more negative earnings, more negative price cut from the banks, negative verbiage from Jerome Powell on more aggressive movements coming, we could see more lower pressure, right? And I think reaching down to, again, 1250 would not be, impossible, right? It will be quite logical, actually. And in respect to weekly, you could see that we have formed a golden cross, but we have formed it for quite some time. So right now it's just plateauing. At the same time, with respect to the RSI, we are at the 42 out of 70. Just basically plateauing at the previous level of support that we've had back in March. Again, we're looking on a weekly frame. So we don't foresee it to be a huge upside pressure, but with respect to this chart, we see more downside pressure in comparisons. But on the monthly perspective, we can see that we are plateauing. So technically, we're seeing some, moderate negativity, selling pressure on a daily and weekly out. But on a monthly, we are seeing some bullishness. So technically, as we ride through this negativity going forward, again, in the next couple weeks or so, months out, we should ideally see some bullish pressure, which makes a lot of sense with respect to the bull run that we typically see in Q4 coming up, right? In respect to Bitcoin, you could see that we're quite comparable, right? Bullish on the monthly out. So months out, we should ideally see some reversal. Weeks out, we are seeing, quite flat, to be honest with you, right? Just trading around $20,000. We're still in a bear market, so nothing really up or down at the moment, but we kind of gave up everything that we kind of gained so far, right? And we are at the 35 out of 70. So next level of support or resistance is going to be 40. And then it's going to go up all the way to 50, respectively, right? And then daily perspective, you could see that we're quite bearish, right? We gave up everything as we were forming this wedge. So now we are heading down to the next level of support, basically somewhere around 20,500. So we still technically have about like 500 or like $1,000 of level down from here, reaching to a next level of support, which is 20,000 exactly, right? And then on the other side of the spectrum, on the altcoin side of the house, we are quite, comparable, right? You can see that we gave up a lot of steam that we've been having so far. Mega red candle all across the spectrum. And the reason is because we've been quite extended, right? So it's not really a surprise, right? The technical has been showing us all of this. So it's important to be, logical about how you, incur risk. And so far, again, right, across the spectrum, on a majority rules perspective, daily and weekly are still showing some bearish, settlement. But as we get over this hump, which I do see some bullishness months out. All right, so have a good day. It's a Monday, so I'll check you guys on next one. Take care. Bye.